Hey, Juan here. A while ago, some of you asked me to make a review of the Marty Cagan book, Inspired. You might be familiar with this book and potentially you have read it. And as the tagline says, this book is about how you can create tech products that your customers love. So this should be a really good book for people that are interested in product management. So let's talk about what this book is about. So maybe before going into the book, I would like to say that I'm not going to do a complete summary. I just want to go through some of the topics that the book talks about and what do I think about them. As you can imagine, this is a book. It covers quite many topics, and these topics are going to be relevant in general to people in general that are going to be working in positions like product managers and potentially, of course, product owners. But if you're interested also in building products and building tech products especially, this could be a very interesting book for you to read. And as I said, the book is focused for product managers working in tech companies, but as Marty mentions in the book himself, the principles for product management are relatively similar from one industry to another. But of course, the practices and the details are going to be varying between one another. So there's going to be always adjustments that need to be done depending on which industry or what type of products are you managing. So one of the main topics that is covered throughout the book and is covered many times is the topic of product discovery. How important it is to actually build the right product. It is not so easy to find what is the right product and what is the correct problem that actually you should be solving, what is the best solution that will solve that problem, and how do you find a large enough user audience for that product that you are defining. In here, Marty covers many different topics. He talks about different things like prototyping, testing, validating the assumptions that you have with different type of users. Basically, the focus is to make sure that what you are building is the right thing for your users. This is always easier said than done, and it's very easy for anybody to think that we know the answers, that we understand our customers the best and we can come with the best solutions. But the reality is that that's rarely the case. So this requires a lot of work when it comes to product discovery. And he actually talks about a lot how can you be working continuously in product discovery and doing a lot of testing sessions with potential customers continuously to get feedback and actually try to find out those bad ideas as soon as possible so you can move them out of the way and concentrate on the things that are actually going to bring value to the users. And he's not only talking about a certain type of testing and validation, he's talking about many different ways of validating the product. He talks about testing feasibility, testing usability, testing business viability. So he covers many different topics. Maybe not just the more typical UI or user experience testing scenarios that we typically will be talking about, but he also concentrates a lot on talking about the business side, which is something that many times is kind of ignored by many people in product management. The next topic that Marty covers a lot, and these are, by the way, in no particular order of how they are covered in the book, is the definition of product teams. And he's not talking about product management teams. He's talking about product teams that can deliver a product end to end. So here he talks a lot about who should be in those teams and who should be the ones that are actually having to work together most of the time to make sure that you are not only taking the needs of the users, but also the needs of other units that are going to be working in this product. So how much is this going to impact, for example, the engineering team? How feasible a solution actually is? Is there a better solution that potentially the product manager didn't come up with, and is somebody that from the engineering team that has the knowledge or the technical knowledge to come up with potential solutions? So when talking about these product teams, he talks about the different people that should be in this team. Typically, of course, there's going to be a product manager who is trying to find out what is the problem and actually find the solution that is going to be the best for that problem. This doesn't mean that the product manager, he or she has to find the problem and the solution on their own. They have to work with other people. So here, the product manager has to work a lot with the product designer who is actually going to look into how this is going to work, how the user is going to interact with your product. Then they're going to work a lot also with people in the engineering teams, typically with some of them more than others, and there's going to be sometimes like a tech lead or a CTO or whatever is the position that is always going to be more involved in making the decisions of where the technology that the product is based on is going and how it's going to build and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So working with them, again, is going to be key. Also to understand the potential effort of the development that you are trying to do. Then depending on the teams, there are going to be different parties involved. This can be test automation engineers that are going to make sure that what you're building is so healthy and not breaking. There's going to be people that are going to be data scientists, data engineers, that are going to make sure that you can get all the data that you need on the usage and the performance of the products that you're building. And then finally, also there's going to be people like product marketing managers that are going to look into how we are going to promote the product once it's going live to the users. There might be other stakeholders that are going to actually be planning the launch of the product that you will have to also perhaps not include as a constant or permanent members of these product teams, but they are going to be more like virtual members of those teams. Why these teams are very important? The idea with these teams is that these teams have ownership of the part of the product or the whole product that they are managing. This means that they can make the decisions of where the product is going to go and how is it going to be built. This doesn't mean that they don't align with the rest of the company. Of course, they have to align with the vision of the company, the strategy of the company, but once the framework is set, then they are good to go to do the planning, the road mapping on their own and delivering those features on their own. These are the many times known as the two pizza teams, referring about the size of the team here. And then the idea is that these teams own the whole end-to-end process of delivering the product to the users. And yes, here these teams and in these product teams typically are not going to be other stakeholders involved, like the people that can give feedback on what the customers are doing or what the customer needs are. So those are usually considered as stakeholders outside those teams. This doesn't mean that these product teams don't work with those stakeholders. The idea with these product teams is that they are empowered and trusted to find the problems of the users and being able to build those solutions that your users are going to love. And no, not all the product teams are going to be perfect and not all the product teams are going to be at the same level. Here is where you actually had to help then the teams to get to those levels. Here's the roles for the CTO, product directors, CPOs, whatever is the title, to help and enable those teams to perform as better as they can. Another big topic that Marty talks a lot in the Inspire book is about product culture. Having the right product culture in the company is why it's going to help you succeed or not. If you don't have the right product culture, it's going to be very difficult that you are actually going to succeed building this type of products, or especially for tech products. Product culture means that you are able to trust and enable and help those product teams to grow and take ownership of what they're building. It is not an easy thing. It's very easy for many companies, especially companies that have been working a long time, to have a lack of trust in these product teams because their understanding is that people don't know how to do their work unless they are managed and sometimes even micromanaged. So being able to detach yourself and let those teams grow and actually take the ownership and drive those products on their own is not an easy path. And it's not an easy thing to do for many companies out there. Marty also talks about the personality of the people that you want to be in these product teams. You want people, especially when you think about product management, you want people that are missionaries, not people that are mercenaries. You want people that are actually going to spread the word of what they're building and making sure that everybody out there hears about what they're building. You don't want people that are mercenaries that are really good at what they're doing, but they just can't do the job and then they move to the next one, but not necessarily with being able to commit and have a big ownership of what they're doing. You want people that really take ownership of what they do and that they are able to participate and help others getting there. Also, it's very important for the product culture to have a culture of innovation within the company. Be able to innovate constantly, to challenge the ways of working. And I don't mean in a bad way necessarily, but understanding that things are moving all the time. Technology is changing all the time. There's better ways of doing many things nowadays. And it's not just about technology, but it's also about practices. Agile is not a new thing anymore, but there's many companies that are not implementing it right. There's many other processes out there like design thinking that maybe principles out there that people are not taking into account or they are not considering when they are working with their customers, for example. So there's always better ways of doing things. Learning and having a culture that promotes innovation constantly in the company, it will help you a lot to build successful products. This in my opinion, doesn't restrict itself only to product teams. It should also apply to anybody in the company, because there's always new ways of doing marketing or new ways of selling products. The next big topic that Marty talks about is product managers that are data-driven. This is obviously not a new thing. Obviously, the book is not a new book either. But being data-driven and using all the data that you have available to make decisions is going to always help you a lot. Data can be used in many different ways. It can be used to validate assumptions. It can be used to understand the adoption of a product. It can be understand the potential size of a market. It can be used in many different ways. Being able to work with data, to understand data, to read analytics dashboards, and also ask for the potential data that you need is going to be very important for a product manager. And I see a lot of collaboration more and more coming between product managers, data scientists, to understand better the directions that a product potentially can be going. With users, you always have to have them in mind, you always have to work with them. And here is why design thinking and all these different principles are very important. Being able to also understand the data and the behavior of large masses of users, how they behave with or how they use your product is going to help you a lot making decisions of which direction the product can be going in the future. And then finally, one topic that he comes back and again is that product is hard. Product management is hard. Product execution is hard. Product design is hard. It's really, really difficult to get the product right. Even if you do all the correct steps, that doesn't mean that you're going to succeed, but it's going to help you to get there. Many times it's said that most of the startups out there fail. And this happens not just to startups, it happens with established companies. Startups is only more visible because usually when they fail, they typically have one product and there it goes the startup. With big companies, they can fail in one product or in a big feature, but people are not going to notice. We've seen many times versions of Windows which are arguable, not the best ones ever, and other versions of Microsoft Windows which are relatively okay or quite good. It depends on who you ask. I'm not trying to be here a Microsoft lover or anything like that, but some of them they were better obviously than others. That doesn't mean that the company goes bankrupt or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that Windows 8 was a very good version of Windows. But here you can see, for example, that the company can fail at delivering a product, and the product can fail at being adopted by the users. The company can still continue. But this doesn't mean that big companies don't fail at product management. So as I said, the book covers many other different topics, but I think that these were the very big topics that it covered, in my opinion. At least those were my key takeaways. What do you think? Was there anything that he was talking about that you thought that was also a big topic, at least in your opinion? Please share in the comments below. As you can imagine, I'm not trying to do a summary realistically of the book. I think that the book is there, so if you're interested, you should go and take a look. It's a really good book. It's also something that you have to pay attention. It is a book, so it's going to help you to get into some directions. It's going to help you understanding the principles. It's not going to tell you exactly everything. It's not a course as such. So if you want a course, Marty Cagan has a business that goes into that direction. So is this book the ultimate guide, the book that every single product manager out there has to read? Well, no, I don't think that there's such a book that can be considered the ultimate guide to pretty much anything out there. What this book does very well is just to help you, to guide you to understand what product management is and how it's done in modern companies and how can you do it in a better way. I will leave the link of where you can purchase the book down below. If you have read the book, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. How did you find it? How was your experience and what were your key takeouts? And did you find this to be a useful read or not? I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.